So it's over, guys. AOC's already turned into an elitist. I think she's getting pretty salty considering the reception of her Green New Deal, or as Dave Smith of Gas Digital calls it, the Green Leap Forward. Because I think she was hoping that, yes, the GOP was going to call it stupid and mock it and say how we can't afford it and stuff, but I think she counted to some extent on fellow Democrats backing her up. And it's been surprising to me, at least, to the extent to which Democrats have been willing to denounce it and just ignore it. I mean, aside from the presidential candidates who sort of jumped on board pretty quickly and then sort of tried to pretend that they didn't, mainstream Democrats have been pretty well opposed to Ms. Cortez's plan, which is somewhat heartening for me, considering that I laid out on this channel a couple weeks ago how her plan, if actually implemented the way that she wrote it, would absolutely destroy the United States. Which, I wouldn't necessarily mind that much. I mean, if the U.S. broke into a million pieces, I think it'd be governed much better. But that's beside the point. No mainstream politician, Democrat or Republican, to my knowledge, wants to destroy the country. So it is kind of a testament either to the intelligence of the average lawmaker or to the stupidity of Ms. Cortez that so many people have opposed this. So nobody's really dignified her trash ideas with any real serious debate other than to say kind of what I've said, that it would be disastrous. So that brings us to her tweet from a couple days ago, in which, in a fit of frustration, I would imagine, she came right out and said, hey, you guys don't have any ideas of your own. I'm at least putting ideas forward, so until you come out with some kind of bold new idea to counter mine, sit down and shut up, because you're just shouting at the performers from the cheap seats while I'm out here trying to do the work. I'm in charge now, or we're in charge now, something like that. So I saw this as a pretty interesting turning point. Now, I don't necessarily find her comment to be that out of line. I mean, I could certainly see myself saying the same thing in her position. However, it is somewhat counter to her persona, I think, as the young upstart, the bartender who made it to Congress, someone who was until quite recently in the cheap seats, as she put it. It would appear that Ms. Cortez has very quickly taken to her position as a member of Congress and a member of the established elite. Because remember, it's Congress is a pretty cushy job, because you don't even have to work that long. As soon as you earn your pension, which is pretty quick, it's generous enough to where you don't have to work for the rest of your life. So Cortez, if she wants, she could quit politics after the, one more election cycle maybe, and she's set for life. So when you have that kind of security, I think that you do feel in some ways like, how couldn't you feel like you're better off than other people? And not only that, she has the power now of working in Congress, of being able to bring up bills. I think she looks down on all these plebs on Twitter who have no legislative authority, and really finds them to be quite sad. She can look down at her phone in her office and be comforted by the fact that none of those lemmings who she sees on Twitter denouncing her and her ideas will ever in their lives have 1/10 of the power that she now possesses. And yet, despite all the confidence that she must yearn or yield from from her newfound powers, from her status as one of America's elite, it must be so frustrating, that she still is powerless without the support of her fellow Congresspeople. Despite her being in such a more powerful position than the vast majority, than 99% of this country, she still feels powerless. And for a young woman like her, that must be quite confusing. She must think to herself, am I one of the people, or am I one of the people who, or am I somebody who can affect change? Am I someone who has the power to change what I think is wrong with this country? In all this, I see Ms. Cortez becoming rather disenchanted with her position. I think that she came into Washington as an idealist, and she's very quickly coming to realize that things won't be quite as easy as she thought. It's not as easy as getting into office and then rallying around your support and getting proposing popular ideas and then sort of, forcing the rest of the party to cooperate. I don't think she's quite to the level of being black-pilled as the average congressperson, However, I think that her idealism is going to make the realization of reality ever more devastating for her, and could perhaps lead to her being even more corrupt than the average congressperson who came in with little to no expectations of opportunity for reform. Yeah, so we'll have to wait a few years, but I think that in time, Cortez will learn that it's much easier to be corrupt and to just go along to get along, while all the while still maintaining her sort of maverick persona, while not actually accomplishing anything. Because getting things done in Washington that are not in line with the establishment ideals is very difficult. Some might say that it's impossible in our current political structure. I certainly think it is. I think that we are sort of the American government is a product of the institutions, and until you alter those institutions, you're really not going to see much that's different. Now, it can be altered for better or for worse. It really depends on how you do it. I think that American institutions have become far too centralized, and that decentralizing them to smaller levels so that you have smaller polities where smaller groups of people can affect political change to where each individual has more of a say in the political process and they're not just a pawn on a board. I think that would do a lot of good for the United States. Suffice it to say, we're not in that position now, and we're not going to be anytime soon until really everything blows up. Which is why, in some ways, I do cheer on the revolutionary types like Miss Cortez, who would like to radically change things, because, of course, the country will not hold together in that case. And by country, I mean the government. She will completely blow up Washington if she got anything that she wanted, because, a good chunk of the country would not be able to go along with her plans. But nevertheless, I doubt she'll get that far. I think really that she'll warm up to the swamp pretty quick, and in a couple of years she'll be just another congresswoman, though she will still have that legacy of being a maverick early on. Something interesting to watch will be Ilhan Omar, because I've noticed that she's been willing to stand up to the establishment on foreign policy grounds, and she doesn't seem necessarily that well informed. However, it's much harder to stand up to the establishment on foreign policy than it is on the economic matters. So perhaps she will have a bit more staying power as an anti-establishment Democrat. But, we'll have to see. Certainly, I think that she'll be able to hold herself together a bit more better than Cortez, but they'll probably both take the money as far as corruption goes. They'd be nuts not to. I know I wouldn't. I'm a fairly minimalist guy. I'd be happy just to take my pension and retire. But, yeah, what do I know? If you've made it this far, please like this video and consider subscribing. I very much appreciate it, and I will keep up with the daily videos as long as YouTube still lets me. So, see you all in the next one.